Let's see if this works. And we good. We good. We in on it. All right. Well, I got it. If we do that. Yeah, I mean, it's still pretty bright. But whatever. Let's see. Yeah, that's better. It's not so heavy. That's a lot better. Yeah, I can see the reflection though. So we will do that. All right, time to go public. Boom. We're public now. We are live. Welcome, everybody, to the first episode, I guess, of AhjuxueTALKS, in which I will just talk about, stuff that I want to talk about now. But for this one, this is in the category. This is for my sports pod. What do you want to call it? Sports pod uh, jargon that I want to put out. But welcome. So today we are talking about the NFL draft. More so where it comes to the Chargers. Now, if you guys see right over here, I am here obviously with my co-host H. That's my co-host right there. This is AhjuxueTALKS with co-host H, and we're talking about this just the draft that just finished for the Chargers. I think this draft, in my opinion, for the Chargers, is a pretty solid draft. They didn't trade their picks. They didn't go anywhere. They stayed put, which is always a good sign for me as a fan of a sports team. It's always nice to see when your team is like they have multiple plans laid out of where they feel like players are going to fall to them, who they're going to draft, especially if they're not moving down, right? If they're moving up in the draft, that typically means that there is a player that they want bad and that they think someone's going to take. In this case, they didn't move anywhere. In comparison to like last year or like 2 years ago or something like that, the Chargers typically move up. They don't seem to really move down the draft. They seem to move up in the draft. So that was nice to see that they didn't go anywhere. They stayed where they needed to stay, and they got the job. What they wanted to do, they got it done. That is nice to see. Now let's talk about the draft picks, right? The Chargers' first pick, they picked 21. So as a fan, I already knew that one, they were going to talk about, and they were going to get not like the extreme top tier players unless that person like falls for some odd reason. Let me fix my title here. uh, where was I? Oh yeah. So unless like someone was, was gonna fall to them, then they were not gonna get any extreme high players. But it was interesting because I don't just watch the draft, right? I don't just track the draft because I can't really watch. I'm I get kind of really busy, so I don't just track the draft. I After the draft happens, I watch like exclusive behind the scene videos of the team on their channel, their YouTube network channel. I watch like their little videos of like when they draft the guys, what they say to them, and I always take those little tidbits into consideration. I feel like if you, as a fan, you have to watch those things because if you don't watch the team videos, you're not going to really know where the team's coming from and how they feel about a certain player. Especially like when it comes to like drafting them or paying them or just kind of like what goes on with where they're seated throughout the season. For instance, a perfect example is this. I was I've always been like not on the Josh Palmer hype train. And the reason why is because when I watch him play, it looks like he's more interested in the one-on-one battles. He's more interested in trying to like, juke a guy in his route running. He's more interested in those type of things than he is in terms of the play breakdown. What do I mean by that? Josh Palmer isn't really when I watch him practice and stuff and the things he says during the practices, it comes off more like he doesn't care so much about what the play is planning out. Like, you're going to be running this slant route. Now you only have 3 seconds to get open, but he's not really interested in that. He's more interested in making sure that he crosses over this dude, right? Whether he gets the catch or not, he's more interested. If he can beat this guy, he's going to look good. He's going to like it. He wants that highlight play. Whereas sometimes it's like, yo, Josh, we just need you to run a simple slant route, get open, get a few yards, done deal. No, he's like, no, I want to clown this guy. I want to clown this guy, and at the same time, I want to catch this ball and make a big ass play. And a lot of times in the NFL, it doesn't work that way. A lot of times the NFL doesn't work. A lot of times the NFL is just about doing your job. And so that's like, the example of what I mean. And you can kind of see that. There was a video where it was like the exclusive Josh Palmer video last season during training camp. And Coach Staley was talking to Josh Palmer because Josh Palmer was bringing it up like, yo, if I'm running, he went up to like Keenan Allen and he was like, yo, if I'm running like a go route, right? Like, do I need to do like a shake and like then get around him, you know? And Keenan was just like, no, just like all you gotta do is just make sure that you get by him. And he's like, yeah, because I saw like Mike just runs up and Mike just kind of goes like one move real quick and then puts his arm and then just goes by. And Keenan's like, yeah, like if you can do that, then that's all you need to do. Like, you don't need to try to like all these moves. And he's okay, cool. And then like Coach Staley and him was having this conversation where Coach Staley was explaining to him that Josh, you don't need to do all this extra stuff. You just need to make sure that you beat the guy, you get open. You don't need to worry about making sure that you go left, right, just if put his arms here and once he puts his arm here, you slap it out of the way and you get by him, that's all you need to do. And he tried to argue his point. And Staley was just like, no, like, you have to understand that the play breaks down. And when the play breaks down, you got to be open. And it's that type of deal. So when it comes to the draft, I watch the draft, but then I track the draft, and then I watch the videos of like the draft stuff that they talk about. And I notice, right? Like, I notice that um I noticed that the Chargers, that whenever they draft, they typically do this thing where they're really polite, right? They say, hey, say thanks to your family, say thanks to da da da, say this, say that. Hey, we're super excited. They always say that. They're always saying we're super excited to have you on the team, But the parts where I really, try to pay attention to is the part in which they explain why, real short, of why they drafted the guy. And with this first pick, the Chargers drafted Quentin Johnston from TCU. And in this first pick, they drafted Quentin Johnston, and they actually still had other receivers on the board at that time. There were the other guys that many people were like, "Well, the Chargers skipped over them. Like they're like better." And I'll even like look it up right here real quick because I remember like I saw a lot of comments people were saying that because yeah, so like the Chargers drafted Quentin Johnston, but they drafted him. They picked him over Zay Flowers. They drafted him over Jordan Addison, right? Zay Flowers from Boston College, Jordan Addison from USC. They drafted him over other receivers. They even drafted him over the tight end players, And a lot of people were like, a lot of comments were like, "Yo, we picked some raw talent guy over Zay Flowers and Jordan Addison. Like, we're crazy." And I'm like, there's a reason why they picked him. Could Zay Flowers and Jordan Addison be more pro ready or more starter ready to go right from the get-go? Yeah, sure. And like if you look at these three guys, right? You look at Zay Flowers, his prospect grade was 6.46. Jordan Addison's 6.36. And Quentin Johnston's 6.39. So it's not like they were, a whole big ass difference. These guys were all were all rated in the 6.3 to 6.4, right? 3 to 6.5. And it wasn't that big of a difference. Even like their 40-yard dashes weren't even that big. I think like even Quentin Johnston ran like a 4.49. Jordan Addison ran 4.49. Zay Flowers ran 4.42. So they're even in their 40 time, they were not extremely like different in terms of speed. But the one thing that Quentin Johnston had above these guys is Quentin Johnston is above and beyond more athletic. He's bigger. 6'3" versus 5'11" and 5'9". He's his arm lengths are longer. 33 to 30 and even 29. His hands are bigger. But the craziest part, I was looking at this, is his verts, his jumping capabilities. So his athleticism of how to attack the ball is so much bigger than those two other guys. He has a 40 and a half inch vert versus Jordan Addison, Zay Flowers being 35 and a half and 34. Broad jumps, they're like 10s. He's in the 11s. So he's a lot bigger on the athleticism, but their productions are a lot higher than them, right? Like their game tapes are a lot more productive. If anybody knows about game tape, knows that game tape really depends on how you are used in the offense and how the offense is designed. We all know about the game tape of H down there, right? The college game tape of H down there. That he was not productive. He didn't look good. He didn't throw much deep balls. Lo and behold, it turns out that really the reason why his game tape didn't look good in college was because the offense was holding him back. And that's the thing too, is with game tape, you have to be very careful about how much you're judging people based off of that, especially when you're looking at the offense. So you can tell with when they drafted Quentin Johnston, Coach Staley was like, we met you at the combine. We liked you. We watched your game tape and we studied you and we liked what we saw. Like what that tells me is they were never going to even draft Jordan or Zay. Never. Even if they were higher on the draft pick, they were higher on the draft. They weren't. That they didn't just draft Quentin Johnston because Quentin Johnston was like the best player available. No, they drafted him because they looked at him. They said, "Hey, we have a plan of how we want to run our offense next season, and this plan of ours of how we want to run our offense next season, we have to make sure that we have big, explosive players, guys who can go up and get the ball, guys who can battle for contested catches." And that's what it looks like. It looks like the Chargers are going that route they must have a talk with the new offense coordinator, Kellen Moore, and he must have told him, like, I want to give you guys, I want to put this team in big offensive play capability of explosive plays. And Quentin Johnston has that capability. They can get, because he's big, 40.5-inch vert, 11 foot and a half and 2-inch broad jump, 4.4 40 time. His game tape reeks athleticism. He's like extremely athletic. So if they can just teach him, like how they taught Mike Williams how to run decent routes, like you don't like a big guy that doesn't need to run like the best routes. Would it be great for him to be like the best route runner? Yeah, but if you are a big target and you like to, you have this big ball capability, you're not really going to be worried about running the best routes. The one thing I did notice too is in his press conference, he talked about, they asked Quentin Johnston about what's the thing he prides himself on. And it wasn't the way he answered it. It wasn't that I believe he prided himself on this feature because he truly believes it, but it's because he was used that way, and he did one hell of a job. He said the yak, right? He was really proud of himself being such a yak player, yard after catch player. He had led the state, right? He had led He had led the NCAA or whatever in yak yards 2 years in a row. And he was really proud of that. So he believes that's what his thing is, yak. But I think even he doesn't know what he's really capable of. I think that he probably wants to do he probably has some big play in him in terms of like jump ball, in terms of like throwing the ball towards him and catching it for big plays. I think he can do that. He just doesn't know that he can do it, but he sure as hell has the potential to do it. And I think that a guy like Mike will be able to teach him that. So I think this first pick, hands down, is a for them. I'm not trying to be biased here. The reason why I'm grading it as A is, first of all, I believe they got the guy they wanted. 2, he's going to fit the scheme, the system that they were trying to do. They were trying to run explosive plays. He's going to fit that. He doesn't need to be the best route runner, because with explosive plays, it's just about designing the best play to get a guy big yards. And this guy led the NCAA in yak, right? So, I mean, if you want to have big plays, explosive plays, you got to be able to get the yak. And he did that. So I think that this is an A for that reason. Their pick number 2, they drafted Tuli Pelotu, right? So this guy is an edge rusher from USC. Best part, he led the NCAA in sacks. 22, I believe. 22 or 23. So back to back, the Chargers didn't even trade up or down to get him. They got him where they wanted. And they also said that in the phone call with him, they said that he was exactly what they're looking for. So what does that mean? Tuli looks like what what I believe Coach Stay is going to want to do with Tuli is he wants Tuli to play in the role of Kyle Van Noy, where Kyle Van Noy like rushes blitzes and stuff. But at the same time, Kyle Van Noy, some plays Kyle Van Noy could take a step back, right? So Thule, and funnily, Thule did that. Thule did that exact thing in college. He edge rushed, he moved around the line, but even when they needed him to take a step back, he did that. So Thule definitely fits their bill of what Coach Staley wants on defense. The unfortunate thing, right? He's short. He's 6'3" only for an edge rusher. He's a linebacker, but he's an edge rusher. So he's not really gonna be like backing up all the time, have like playing zone coverage and stuff. He's gonna be doing rushing. So he's gonna have his work cut out for him, because in the NFL, the talent is all basically there, and it's just about scheming to make the talent better, bigger, better. So he's gonna have to deal with bigger dudes than him. But this being that they have a plan of how they want to use him already, that's the part that's so important. They have a plan that they want to use for him already. Like, it was not like they just drafted Thule because they're like, oh yeah, 22 sacks. Like, yeah. He got a lot of sacks. So we're just gonna have rush all that. No. Like they're gonna use him like how they use Kyle Van Noy, and that's gonna be very beneficial to him, because he's a very effective pass rusher. He doesn't need to be the leading pass rusher. He just needs to be an effective pass rusher. And if you're asking that out of a guy who led the league, the NCAA league, in sacks, what more do you want? Right? I'm gonna give this a B. On the simple fact that they know like what they want to do with him. He has a stat that you like to look at, but the part that worries me the most is his athleticism. He is a 6'3" edge rusher. Like, he is very undersized. He just doesn't like, and the craziest thing is, if you see how he looks like in person, right? And not like I've seen him in person, but if you see him on the videos, like in the game, he looks kind of bigger. But in the videos of like when he was at home, when they called him, and then like he met the 3rd round pick guy at the Chargers facility. The 3rd round pick guy looked like he was bigger than him. That's all you have to say. All I have to say is he definitely doesn't look like he's as big as he looks a lot smaller. So that does worry me. That's why I give him a B, because he ranks 32nd in all edge rushers in terms of athleticism. So like he doesn't even have like he didn't even go to the combine, because they would have they probably would have like killed him over being 6'3" and an edge rusher. There's no way they would have like been like, oh yeah, no problem, go ahead, run these, do this. They wouldn't be like, you are too small to be an edge rusher, you're gonna play linebacker. This is that type of thing. So yeah, like even in terms of edge rank, he's 13th. Production score, he's ranked 8th. For a guy who got drafted in the second round, ranked 8th in terms of production for edges, and 13th in total score, being that he's the worst ranked in terms of athleticism. That's not bad. It's a B rank. That's a B grade. So I'm cool with that. In the 3rd round, the Chargers drafted Diane Henley. Is it Diane Henley or Dayan Henley? Let's just say Dayan, because it's like saying, right? So Dayan Henley from Washington State, linebacker from Washington State. He is also another homegrown guy. He's also another home guy, LA guy. He has a prospect grade of 6.2. This was their third round draft pick. And what is crazy is this guy ran a 4.54 40 time as a linebacker. 6'1", 225. He's looks smaller too. He's not like this big old linebacker, but a lot of linebackers have gotten smaller over the years because of speed, right? So, but I mean, his production, he's ranked 6th, athleticism ranked 8th, and the total score ranked 4th. So you're talking about the Chargers after 2 rounds, 64 picks have gone, right? 64 players have been drafted, and then you add on another 20. So 84 players have been drafted. They landed Dan Henley. Uh, like I'm I'm shocked, honestly. I feel like this guy might be the steal of the draft. Um, because he's the 4th ranked linebacker. And we know right now in the league, everybody needs linebackers. Linebackers are a position where you need to have good depth because they are having to do so much. They're having to cover, blitz, run stuff, everything. And for him to fall to the Chargers in the 3rd round, being the 4th ranked linebacker, that is one hell of a steal. This one, I give him an A. This is definitely a grade draft, a grade pick because he, like, you have to understand that they had the NFL, they have this rating, right, called like the prospect rate, and they like what they say, like, oh, what can he be? And they say, well, he can be an average starter. You know what I see? I see starter, not a backup, starter. Meaning that you drafted, even if he's average, in the 3rd round, you drafted a starting linebacker. Typically, you're in the 3rd round, you're drafting backups. That's what you're drafting. You're drafting depth guys that are just going to fill in holes here and there. But the Chargers drafted all 3 draft picks are um, potential starting players at their position. That is very smart. That is very good. That is a draft that you can that a team, right, can look and say, we knew what we wanted. We knew what we were looking for, and these are the guys we're looking for. And we know we scouted the talents. We know what we want. We know what we can do with them. We know how good they are. And it's the funny thing is the moment the draft happened, they picked up Justin Herbert's 5th-year option, and then they didn't pick up Kenneth Murray's 5th-year option. And then they draft this guy who's a potential starter in the 3rd round, right? But he's also the 4th ranked linebacker. What does that tell you? He's going to be working a lot with Kenneth Murray in the linebacking position, but he's going to be learning. I was watching, they were saying that like he's really good at blitzing. But he's also he's athletic, so they're going to use him. This is the guy that they're trying to replace. They're trying to bring in to replace Drew Tranquil's like production is this guy. And the funny thing is he might be even better than what the Chargers bargained for because he's a 3rd round pick. So expectations are not super high. So anything he does that looks good, looks great. Looks great, looks Hall of Famer, that type of thing. So it looks elite, right? So this one's an A. To get a guy who's going to be a starter in round 3 for your linebacker depth is good. It's real good. In round 4, they drafted Uh, Darius Davis. This one, honestly, it's like a C grade. He's real small guy, 5'8", 165, 4'3", 640 times. So he's fast, but he's fast because he's small. He's fast and quick because he's small. Um, he's 165 pounds, guys. Like, he really light. He's also from TCU, which, funnily, the Chargers went on a TCU drafting spree. It was like they only scouted TCU, or like they let LT be in charge of drafting. LT basically was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna just draft all my alma mater guys, just draft all the damn TCU players." They took Quinn Johnston from TCU, which was the wide receiver #1 there, and then they brought in Darius Davis, who's might be like number three guy, because his production score is freaking 55. If ranked 44th of all combine wide receivers, his athleticism is 76 because he's fast as fuck. His total score is 33rd, right? But 4.36 40-yard, 4.38 shuttle. He didn't do any verticals, broad jumps, cone drills, and then bench. So what that tells me is this guy's not like a freak athlete. He's just fast. Funnily, he's also from. Funnily, I watched the video of Darius, his interview, and his Quentin ended up like crashing and interviewing him. So they do. So they do have like good chemistry in a way. That is nice that they have good chemistry. But this guy, he's just, the Chargers drafted him. This is a C grade because the Chargers simply drafted him for speed. They're gonna use him kind of like how they're gonna use Jalen Guyton. Kellen Moore is just gonna probably do some end around runs with him, maybe streak him down the field. He's definitely gonna be put in the kick returner spot. They're gonna see if he can kick return, and then they're gonna see if he can get like worth there, because they didn't bring back DeAndre Carter. DeAndre Carter was their kick returner, and they didn't bring him back. So this guy's probably going to be the guy they're going to test out with kick returning. I mean, if he doesn't perform well in the special teams, unless he has some monster like highlight of streak of like go routes and stuff in the NFL, the Chargers will probably cut him after year one. He might not even make it on the team, honestly. Unfortunately, that's the truth of the fact, right? Because Jalen Guyton is there, and they gave Jalen Guyton a contract. So we just want to break it down. Keenan is wide receiver 1. Mike is wide receiver 2. Quentin Johnston and Josh Palmer are going to fight for 3 and 4, right? So one of those guys is going to be 3, and one of those guys is going to be 4. And then Jalen Guyton is going to be 5. This guy's 6. So you never really need 6 wide receivers unless you're planning on running like a lot of 4 wide sets all day long. Chargers could be doing that. That might be what Kellen Moore wants to do. We don't know. But this guy's got speed. But he's definitely going to be like a key returner. So, C. Round 5. They drafted Jordan McFadden from Clemson, tackle from Clemson. This guy won the ACC Jacobs Blocking Trophy in 2022. So he's a good enough guy to win an award, a blocking award, which is always a good thing for me. Whenever I see that guys are winning awards for something related to their skill set, I'm glad to see that. His production score, he's ranked 10th. Athleticism, he's ranked 6th, and total 12th. Which doesn't really make sense to me, how he can go from a 10th ranked production, 6th ranked combine, but total he goes down. Made no sense to me, but whatever. Let's see. They say that he has the potential to develop into a starter, but he is a good backup, which is what they want, which is what they really need. They don't need a starting guard tackle type of player. He's a guard, but he did play as left tackle in college. Yeah, this guy is. It's funny though. He's 6'2". He's short. He's even shorter. He's as short as my chair is going down. He's even shorter than the edge rusher Thule, which is funny because this guy 6'2" guard, man, that's short. He's perfect guard for Russell Wilson. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, I'd give this a C grade as well. The Chargers are just drafting a guy to fill in a backup position. They know who they want as their starting guard. Jamar Sawyer is going to be the starting left guard. Rashawn Slater is starting left tackle. They already have their center and Corey Linsley. They have Zion Johnson as the right guard. The right tackle position, they think they brought back Trey Pipkins for right tackle, I believe. If they didn't, then they might have this guy try a right tackle and see what happens there. But you never know. Yeah, this is a C grade for me. His production is not too good, right? The production from him isn't sitting well with me, being that like he's so like far down in terms of production, but for being a 6'2" guy, he's pretty athletic. But then what I'm looking at, like what they want him for, and the fact that he's has potential to be a starter, which is good. Which you know, that's not a very bad thing to have. So C grade. Round 6, I believe. Yeah, they drafted Boise State defensive tackle Scott Matlock. 6'4", 308. This guy is a big man. He's a wide man. 6'4", so he's pretty short. I'm not, guys. Remember, guys, I'm not saying he's short because I'm tall. I'm saying he's pretty short because I'm comparing him to his constituents. Defensive tackles are usually 6'6" and up, and he's 6'4", so he's relatively on the shorter end of defensive tackle heights. But this is you have to think about what their plan is for him. The Chargers suffered a ton of defensive lines injuries last season, and this guy they're probably going to keep him. Like they say he's average backup or special teamer. Funnily, I think they're going to keep him for the whole season because of how bad it was last season in terms of like injuries. They lost edge rushers, defensive tackles. Like in one game, they lost those guys. So they're going to have him play depth. I heard pretty good things from him. So, like he might end up like he might end up being really good for the Chargers, honestly, because there's not a lot of expectations for him, but then there's so much talent around him. That's the part that helps out. This one is a D. D because I wouldn't have gone defensive tackle at this spot, but they're going defensive tackle. And then their last pick, their their last pick is a very interesting last pick. The Chargers selected Max Duggan, the quarterback, not just the quarterback, the starting quarterback from TCU. This was the guy that led the TCU team, NCAA team, to the national championship. Okay? He didn't just do anything in college. All right. Like he he did a lot. He did like big things in college. Um, let's see what they say about him, right? He was the Heisman runner up, ranked ninth, which is crazy that which is crazy that he fell all the way to the sixth round. But it just shows you just how much they really value physical talent and um like game tape that really, you know, puts a like a big thing on you. And what I mean by that is hold up. We're back. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. Where were we? Oh yes, we were talking about Max Duggan. It's very interesting on what's going to happen here. They drafted Max Duggan, and in the with their final pick, right, in the round 7. And for this guy to have the type of season he did in college, um, people are comparing him to like Sam Ellinger, right? But they um they don't even like believe that he can be a starter because of his talent, his like skill level talent. But he might be a guy that is a really good motivator of men, which is very interesting. And the reason why I put it this way, they usually say that the backup the backup quarterback's job is to watch film tape and to tell the starting quarterback, "Hey, I'm catching this, I'm seeing that, watch out." But his other job is to also kind of be always ready to play if the starting quarterback gets hurt. And Max Duggan, it wasn't like Max Duggan tore up the NCAA in his entire time playing. Matter of fact, he looked average. His when watching his game tape, even though he threw it a lot of times downfield, he even though he threw a bunch of times down the field, it looked like a lot of the passes he threw were underthrown, which told me that he doesn't have a rocket arm. He has a good arm, but not great, right? So let's just say like an Alex Smith. But um, he ran a lot. He runs a 4.52 40 time. But then like he has this, like, one of his strengths, right? Was like one of a quote, a quote that a source said after evaluating him was that he has great leadership. He's not super talented, but coaches will like him more than other quarterbacks in the room. Also, they were saying that he like aced the drawing board, the Steve Mariucci drawing board thing. He aced it. Like, he took over that shit. So he might end up being a very, very key backup piece for the Chargers' success. Because if he knows his shit, he knows how to break down tape, that's going to help out Justin Herbert. Not only that, if he has a lot of intangibles, he might not be a backup long. I'm just going to be honest. He might not be a backup long if he has good intangibles, like great intangibles. And the Chargers might end up having to trade him if he ends up becoming like a very big thing. Because you don't just go from starting quarterback, making it to the national championship. You don't just go from that to backup on a team and not doing anything without a fight. So he's going to fight for that. He's going to fight for the number 2 position against Easton Stick, which I really don't care. I wouldn't even make him fight. I would just put him in number 2 because I don't believe that Easton Stick is like even good enough to be a number 2. That literally the only reason why they brought Easton Stick back was Easton Stick has a good relationship with like Herbert and the team. That's really the only reason why I feel like they brought him back for. So yeah, this pick, I think, in my opinion, this pick is an A. To get a guy who went to the NCAA national championship, who did the things he did in college, and like, to get him at that spot they got him, and what they're going to do with him, I'd have to give it an A. This is a number 7 pick. So the Chargers, overall, I think overall draft grade will be a B. That's why I have to go, because they got a bunch of C's and 1 D. So yeah, that's kind of like my recap on like the draft. I think that I always trust Tom Telesco. Tom Telesco has drafted so many gems. Just think about the amount of time Tom Telesco has drafted a rookie of the year, like, a rookie of the year player. He drafts like 3 of them. That's how good he is at drafting. He drafted Bosa, Herbert, Derwin. I mean, so it's not like he doesn't know his draft. He knows his draft. He drafts good, and I have full trust in his drafting capabilities. So I'm excited to see how they're going to use these guys. It's funny because, like, it's not like a single one of these guys, I don't see what their role is on the team. It's not like they just drafted a guy just because the guy was like the best player on the board or something. No, all these guys, they literally have like a uh, set in stone position that I see, and I am all for it. But guys, this is just a short pod video of the draft recap for the Chargers 2023 draft. I hope you guys enjoy it. I am looking forward to seeing these guys' careers pan out, and hopefully the Chargers, these guys help the Chargers make it to the Super Bowl. So I am Ajushi, and this is AhjuxueTALKS Sports Edition. We are out. Oh yeah, by the way, H and I are out. See ya.